at 6:01, we'll call this regularly scheduled meeting of the Hillsborough City Council to order. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is to hear statements from persons wishing to address the council.
We have none.
Hearing none, we'll move along to the consent agenda. Deliberate and act on the approval of the minutes for the regular meeting on April 1st, 2025. Act on the approval of bills. Deliberate and act on a resolution to approve the request by the Main Street Board to close Franklin Street between Waco Streets and Covington Street, as well as Covington Street between West Elm Street and Pastor Street for the purpose of holding Churro Fest and related events on May 17th, 2025. Deliberate and act on a resolution to award a contract for sewer line replacement into Hummingbird Street and authorizing the mayor or city manager to negotiate and execute all necessary documents. Deliberate and act on a resolution creating a comprehensive plan advisory committee. Deliberate and act on a resolution accepting the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission to approve the preliminary and final plat of Quintana Edition Phase 2 to the city of Hillsborough on a certain tract of land being .268 acres situated in the J. Carruthers Survey, abstract number 148, and being the same property by reference and recorded in volume 2346, page 641 of the official public records of Hill County, Texas, also known as 702 and 704 South Ivy Street. And last, deliberate and act on a resolution to authorize Aerial Ag owner Matt Ashcraft to sublease 3-4S of the city's airport hangar. Council, does anyone have any questions about those individual items? Hearing no question, motion.
Second.
Councilmember Cooney. Councilmember Lloyd. Councilmember Robinson. Councilmember Zarate. Councilmember Jolly.
Okay, moving on to the regular agenda. Hold a public hearing, second reading, deliberate and act on an ordinance accepting the recommendations of the Planning and Zoning Commission to rezone property located to the west of North Apple Drive and north of Old Brandon Road from agricultural residential AR1 and commercial to multi-family residential MF12. All that certain lot, tracts, or parcels of land located in Hill County, Texas, and being all of a .379 acre tract situated in the West Mills Abstract Survey, number 638, a portion of a 758 acre tract situated in H. Weatherly Abstract Survey, number 972. Being the same property by reference is recorded in volume 2202, page 712, and a portion of the property is recorded in volume 2202, page 710. Mr. Reinhardt.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the same property that you heard a presentation on in February for the senior mixed income apartment unit, complex with 36 units in it. They're requesting to rezone the property from combination of commercial and agricultural residential to multifamily residential MF12. This map shows the 200-foot notification area. Did not receive a whole lot of responses to this, just one for clarification. Planning and Zoning Commission looked at this at their meeting on March 24th. They recommended approval. This being the second reading, I won't go into too many details, but if there's any questions, I can answer those. As I pointed out meaning this is compatible and with the recommendations of the future land use map also.
Okay, council, any questions for Richard? Have any questions? This is the second reading. We'll open it up to anyone in the audience that would like to address this specific agenda item. Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Councilmember Fleming. Councilmember Lloyd. Councilmember Robinson. Councilmember Zarate. Councilmember Jolly.
Next item on the agenda, hold a public hearing, second reading, and deliberate and act on an ordinance accepting the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission to amend the terms of the 2007 zoning ordinance known as ordinance number O 2007-01-01, whereby the purpose is to amend section 2.11, permitted use legend table, and section 3.24, central business district regulations, to allow multifamily dwellings without ground for retail with a specific use permit in the central business district.
So this is another item that the Planning and Zoning Commission looked at on March 24th. The purpose of this text amendment is to allow a specific use permit process for properties that may not have the foot traffic to get exposure to make a retail business work, to allow them to be able to get specific use permit to just have multifamily in that building in the central business district. Got the map here that shows this button will work. There we go. That red area is the central business district, so this is the area that would involve. There might be some areas that don't get the exposure with foot traffic, and this being a second reading, won't go into all the detail. This is the first reading. If there's any questions, you have to answer those.
Thanks, Richard. Council, any questions? This is the second reading, so we'll open up to anyone in the audience that would like to address this specific agenda item. Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Councilmember Fleming. Councilmember Lloyd. Councilmember Robinson. Councilmember Zarate. Councilmember Jolly.
Next item on the agenda, hold a public hearing, second reading, deliberate and act on an ordinance amending Article 4, business regulations, section 4.1, alcoholic beverages by changing indoor commercial recreational establishment to commercial recreational establishment and amend the definition.
So this agenda item would remove commercial from that term and leave it as just recreational, commercial recreational establishment. And then it would remove references to just indoor spaces from the definition so that it could apply to outdoor spaces as well. Again, this being a second reading, I won't go into all the details, but I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Council, any questions? This is the second hearing, second reading, we'll open up the public hearing. Anyone in the audience that would like to address this specific agenda item? Hearing no questions, we'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Councilmember Fleming. Councilmember Lloyd. Councilmember Robinson. Councilmember Zarate. Councilmember Jolly.
Next item on the agenda, hold a public hearing, second reading, deliberate and act on an ordinance on amending ordinance number O-2024-09-18, comprehensive fee schedule as amended, adopted on September 30th, 2024, by amending the alcoholic beverage permit fee schedule.
So this would modify or would amend the fee for an alcohol beverage permit. When they come in and apply for the permit, they would pay an upfront administrative fee of $50 and then the annual permit fee of $200. Presently, our fee is based off of the state fees, which, and this would just be creating a flat fee across the board just for the city fee. So if there's any questions, we have to answer those.
What's the fee changing from?
Say that again.
What's it changing from?
There's a variety of different fees. It depends on what is being applied for. So again, right now it's based 50% off of what the state fees are, and depending on what someone's applying for. So if they just want like a beer and wine permit versus a mixed beverage, they're all over the place. Some of them can be as high as state fees of $5,000 for every 2 years to down to just a few hundred every couple of years. But regardless of what they're applying for with the state, the administrative work is really the same. I mean, it goes through a background check, we have our city attorney review it, and then city secretary will sign it, and then they continue the process. So,
Council, any more questions for Mr. Brown? This is the second reading. We'll open up the public hearing. Does anyone in the audience would like to address this particular agenda item? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
we approve.
Councilmember Fleming. Councilmember Lloyd.
Aye.
Councilmember Robinson. Councilmember Zarate. Councilmember Jolly.
Aye.
Next item on the agenda, hold a public hearing, first reading, and deliberate on an ordinance establishing regulations for murals in the city of Hillsborough.
Okay, so there has been interest in establishing a mural ordinance. Staff has gone over several different requirements. This has been for the Historic Preservation Commission. The Main Street Board is scheduled to review it tomorrow. The proposed ordinance will define what a mural would be. This right here is the definition. And then it would outline a process for obtaining a permit to have a mural on the side of the building. So in the downtown area, there's the downtown historic district, and then there's also the Main Street area. Now, with the historic district, some of those properties are opted out, so not every property is covered by the downtown historic district overlay. So the actual approval would come through the Main Street Board, but if it is part of the historic overlay, it would still require a certificate of appropriateness. Now, in instances where those two determinations are in conflict, then it would be brought here to City Council, and then you all would be the determining vote on whether or not that bill should be approved. Then there's requirements, how it's enforced, additional technical issues that are contained in the proposed ordinance. There are a few things in the ordinance that's contained in your packet that as we were getting this in the ordinance form, were noticed that need to be corrected. So the Historic Preservation Commission, they recommend approval of it as it's presented to them on April 3rd. The Main Street Board will review it tomorrow, so when it comes back for second reading, they'll have their recommendation also, and hopefully corrections to some of the things that were taught as it was being retyped. So if there's any questions, we have to entertain those.
Thanks, Richard. Council, any questions? Okay, this is the first reading. Welcome to anyone in the audience that would like to address this particular agenda item.
I was just curious what the term goes to means.
Say it
I
again.
was thinking, I was curious what the term ghost mural means.
So that's a mural that, it's an old historic mural that's kind of faded over time. So the three ways that this addresses ghost murals, how those would be handled, one of the following three methods. One, lightly touch up the design and lettering so that it can be seen again. This approach uses diluted paint to still allow a faded appearance and convey it is a historic mural. Oftentimes this will require research of historic city directories, yearbooks, newspapers, sandboard maps, official city files and records, museum files, and of course local citizens for historical photographs and information. So that's one method. Another method is to repaint the mural with 100% coverage. This approach is the least favorite since it makes the mural look brand new again rather than as a historical element and is only allowed provided the photograph can be presented showing a clear image of the original mural. On the more technical level, many historic murals were painted on brick. The Texas Main Street program does not recommend painting on brick because it can interfere with how brick absorbs and repels water. Water can get trapped behind paint and cause deterioration of the brick. And then the third method, leave them as is. Leaving them exactly the way they are is an authentic history, and they have a beauty and character of their own in this state. Do ensure that photos are taken and archived to document their history for future generations to learn about even if they can no longer be seen in their entirety. So those are the methods that handle ghost murals and what ghost murals are.
How is the placement of murals chosen? Do people volunteer their placement or?
Yeah, so that would be if someone has a building that they would like a mural on, they have an artist that is able to paint that, then they would come and apply for a mural permit in order to have that, and it would go through the standard due process.
And would there be laws to make sure it doesn't face like the courthouse or?
Yeah, so there are sections that address the placement of them. So with kind of summarize the section on placement. Well, I'll read, one of these points. It shall not cover, destroy, or materially alter an architectural or historic feature unless the Historic Preservation Commission permits the wall mural to cover the architectural mural. That would be part of the COA process if it's on a building that is in the overlay. So it wouldn't be able to cover anything like that. It cannot be placed. If it's projected from the building, it can't be to such a depth that pedestrian traffic is impeded. So there's several different things, or several different items that address placement on these things. Do you have any specific questions on placement, or?
I was just wondering how they were done. Do the building owners volunteer their location?
Yes.
Or does it go to their process and they say, I want to have a mural, this is where I would like it, and then come to the owners and.
Yeah, it's basically someone, if they had a building that wanted to mural on it, they would come and apply for a mural permit.
And the upkeep of the murals?
Say that again?
Who takes care of the upkeep of the murals?
That's going to be the owner. And that's something that will need to be addressed in that application process also.
Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and move to the next agenda item. Deliberate and act on a resolution to approve an amended and restated wholesale water contract between the City of Hillsborough and Aquila Water Supply District, and authorizing the mayor or city manager to negotiate and execute all necessary documents.
Mayor and council, this is one of the biggest things that will come before y'all. amending and restating the contract that we've had with Aquila that's been in place since 1981. This is the contract that supplies the city of Hillsborough with all of its drinking water. And while we've certainly been in conversation with Aquila, we've supplied them the draft, we've gone back and forth with them, and they have, in this draft, responded to all of the concerns that we've raised. There still are a couple of provisions that probably warrant additional discussion and additional research. In addition, I had a phone call this afternoon with Texas Water Development Board. Texas Water Development Board is reviewing an application by Aquila for funds to do the big improvement project that they've contemplated, of which we're aware of. Some of the provisions that are in this contract are things that Aquila has to have in place in order to be eligible to be considered for that funding. So it's important for them to respond to those issues. It's important for us because those improvements are material to their ability to supply us with clean water. But at the same time, I have not seen their application to Texas Water Development Board. And so I was sort of asked questions about stuff that I wasn't super familiar with. And that made me feel like maybe I wasn't ready to have that conversation with Texas Water Development Board. Under those circumstances, I think I would recommend, if council is comfortable, not taking action on this item tonight, but rather scheduling a call meeting later this month. I know that Aquila has, they're on a timeline to try to get this taken care of. But as important as it is, I think it warrants further consideration on it.
Council, any questions for Megan? Megan, has the city attorney reviewed the contract?
Because our city attorney is also the general counsel for the Brazos River Authority, she has not been able to render a final recommendation on this contract. She did review terms in the earlier components, but the contract itself is subject to Aquila receiving water from the Brazos River Authority. Because the Brazos River Authority is a named entity with their decision-making is a component of Aquila's ability to supply us with water. And our attorney, Laura Allen, felt that might create an appearance, at least, of conflict. So in terms of rendering a final recommendation, she was uncomfortable doing so.
Should we see some outside counsel to review?
Yes.
Do we know the extent of the upgrades that are going to be done? Has council been provided with a list of that?
We have not seen what was submitted to Texas Water Development Board listing those specific improvements and their associated costs. And a portion of those costs that would be the city of Hillsborough.
Can we request that from them? So what I'm hearing from you is, should we table this, or?
I think the cleaner thing to do would be to simply take no action tonight, and rather instead to hold a call meeting at the end of the month and gather more information.
Council's everybody? Can see they think that
I'm sorry. Take no action.
Got a motion and a second on that?
I'll second.
Councilmember Fleming. Councilmember Lloyd. Councilmember Robinson. Councilmember Zarate. Councilmember Jolly.
Okay, next item on the agenda, here to deliberate on the city manager's report.
Mayor and Council, this being the second meeting of the month, I am reporting on the second half of our 8 strategic goals. And there's not a lot of new information tonight, so I will skate through them relatively quickly. I think we have mostly familiar faces, so hopefully people are pretty well already knowledgeable about these items. The street and infrastructure project, the $6 million project, we are 91% complete as of today. And a lot of what is left is pavement, which is very expensive. So in a couple of days, they'll knock out most of that remaining value when they pave. We do not have a likely date for that. And frankly, they're a little shy of providing estimates at this point because, with weather and other unexpected things, something always goes sideways and we're saying, well, I thought you were going to do it instead. They are trying to resolve, so the Park and Ivy intersection, the Walnut and Ivy intersection, Ivy is just challenging because of all of the drainage infrastructure in that street. So there's a lot of sort of readdressing and re-engineering from the field that's taken place around all of that. That has held up completing those intersections in that portion of the project. But other than that, Walnut is progressing pretty smoothly. We continue to have questions from folks like, why are the driveways done on one side but only partially done on the other side? We keep trying to explain that it's because there's a slope difference, and where there's an increased slope, those driveways have to be married into the sidewalks, and it's just extra steps that need to be taken. We have to have the base material installed before all of that final concrete work can be done. The intersection of Walnut and Church, there in front of the junior high, that intersection has been open. We were hoping to have concrete poured last week. They started pouring concrete this week, and today is star testing. So we pulled them off of concrete pouring. They've got the intersection itself, but there's some additional concrete work, and we need to figure out when that can take place around the testing that's happening. So there's more testing on Thursday. So they're renegotiating that work, but it looks like they'll be able to put in the base material early next week. That is the updated estimate on that, and then that intersection will be drivable in until such time as it is paved. When that intersection is ready to pave and Walnut is ready to pave, they'll pave everything at once, and then we'll be almost done. You guys have seen this slide before. I'll just leave it up for a second so people can see that this is essentially our process for all of the different infrastructure areas. So streets, water, sewer, drainage. We're following kind of the same process, and we're a little further along in streets. We're kind of next in water. We're next in sewer and drainage. We haven't really even started yet. And you can see it's because we're trying to get each section kind of lined out and identified and a way forward. The reason we can't make a lot of progress in scheduling future work is because we have $30 million in funding requested from the Texas Water Development Board. Until we find out what's happening with that $30 million, that's going to drive the vote on how everything else gets assigned. This is essentially the next couple of slides are just saying in words what that said in a table. I will just give the one update is that I've been going back and forth with Commissioner Crumpton to determine whether we could use an interlocal agreement with the county to perform some chip seal of roads that we have prepared for surfacing. They have talked through that and are expect to be able to do that. So we'll be looking at putting that interlocal agreement together, and then they'll identify which of the streets that are ready they'd like to try it on. Same thing, we just talked about the Texas Water Development Board. I did speak with Texas Water Development Board staff this afternoon, and was advised that they'll be updating me. They're running around trying to figure out who knows when we're going to hear something and trying to let us know. recommendations from the Texas Commission on Fire Inspection. There's been a lot of activity around transition of solid waste services. And I would, sort of two big buckets. One is, okay, this is cart service, this is different than what we've had, how's that gonna work? And then it is, what is the service route schedule? So some of that is people received either contradictory or incorrect information in the first pass from Frontier with their new route information. And it's like anything, the vast majority of it was correct, but if you've got a handful of people who got incorrect information, and then you've got another handful of people who aren't sure what their information is telling them, then everybody's confused because the people who got the right information aren't sure whether it's right or not. So it's just been pretty challenging that Frontier did go around and they've been door-to-door delivering updated information. They really want to make sure that everybody understands what's going on. And we've had a lot fewer questions or concerns in the last few days than we did, the first 8 or 9 days. I appreciate Jessica True with Economic Development, making sure that I have all good information from my Economic Development slides. So all of our projects are on there. We've got Project Dispatch, we've got Project Freeze Pop, we've got Project Iceman. That one's on hold, but we do continue to keep it on the list because it's an important project and we expect it to reassert itself later. Project Treasure Hunt is moving forward. Project Percy, which we've been discussing in executive session, so that's moving forward. And then Project RA. Retail Coach is continuing to work with prospects. But nothing new to report there. There is a retail promotion planned among small businesses over Easter weekend. Not as big as the Leprechaun event that was real fun downtown last month. And then, of course, working on the outlet mall, Blazer Retail continues to do their thing. We've got Mall-Mageddon scheduled this weekend and the mall demolition end of May. Economic development team is having weekly calls with the developer and staying on top of things. Over at the library, we continue to be getting ready for that grant funded work to the facade. We applied for an extension to give us a little bit more time to finish that project. As noted, we are updating our ask to USDA on the expansion project. And then that weekly library program continues. They've got kind of a respite window between spring break and summer. So Parks and Rec, baseball, softball, but really want to highlight the Easter egg hunt that will be this Friday, 24,000 eggs. Mall-Mageddon. There's been a good amount of social media and media coverage. We're getting donations from all over for our bridge room. People in the audience have been out painting things and volunteering and helping get ready. Really appreciate people pitching in to do these things. I know there's a level of silly, for sure, but it's meaningful to be able to celebrate things as a community, and the outlet mall was a big deal. And I think it's meaningful to celebrate what it was before we knock it all down and then, look towards the future. And then, of course, we've got Sheriff Fest coming up May 17th. That's going to be a really great time, and people are excited about that as well. Questions for me?
Council, any questions for Ms. Henderson? Thanks, Mayor. Next item on the agenda, hold a closed session under the provisions of sections 557.071 of the government code in regards to economic development. Show the council closed session 6:36.